Retirement funds, by their very nature, are complex, but one of the things that gets perhaps not enough attention is the technology underpin, and that's what I'm talking about, is the systems that they run upon, especially when changes in legislation throw a few curveballs at us. And case in point, the approaching two-pot system or two-component system, as I believe they refer to it now, that's looming on the horizon for us early next year. I've invited Mr. Gary Hughes, who's the CEO of Fundworx and an expert in administration systems, having done so in a number of countries, not just in South Africa, but also, if I look at my notes here, Malawi, Kenya, Zim, Namibia, Mozambique, Mauritius, Eswatini. I mean, that experience pool is quite a wide or deep one to dive into. And Gary, if you could be so kind as to share your experience on similar systems and things that has happened in these countries and with your clients, so that we can pick up a couple of valuable clues from that. Good morning.
Yeah, morning, Chris. Yeah, no problems. Look, this two-pot thing that's coming is a bit of a misnomer. It's actually three pots or three components, because you've got a vested right for the members who are over 55 in their provident funds who have the choice not to go into a two-pot system. So ultimately, you're going to have to be managing three components, and I think that's going to present some challenges. So, you know, if you add layers of complexity on top of that, like individual member choice and allowing members to have home loans and where do you put the ABCs and all those good things, I don't think that administration granular detail has been considered. Well, certainly not at the recent conference that I attended with the IRF. I think it was extremely sparse as to what the technical issues relating to this implementation were. I'd gone there to try and get some more in-depth information, but most of it is actually just marketing stuff. So good luck to the guys who are trying to sell their wares. But I think for the trustees and everybody's there who's trying to understand some of the technical issues they're going to have to deal with, I think that was lacking. The issue of components as envisaged in this new regime is first for South Africa, but it's happened elsewhere, and particularly north of us in a country called Zimbabwe, where they now have to manage, due to their hyperinflation, what they call sub accounts, which is a component. So they've got sub account 1, which is all the Zimbabwean assets up to the end of 2018, and then from 2018 to the end of 2021, that's also Zimbabwean assets, but they're called sub account 2. They've had to ring fence all the assets separately, and then now they've got sub account 3, which is US dollar based. So you've got a situation where you're having to manage 3 separate pots or components, plus a complexity of dual currency. And we've been in that industry for over 5 years. We've done phenomenally well in Zim. We picked up all the large industry funds, and our 2 life officers on board. And one of the main determining factors for coming on board with us is our ability to manage the sub accounts, or this 2-component or 3-component system. But it's just typical of the South African market. We see a bit of a bugbear of mine. We have an IT director who has a large budget and go and buy a large system from overseas. They're actually importing legacy into a country which they're bringing from an environment that doesn't have 2 pots. Barely has defined contributions if you're coming from the UK for that matter. So you end up with the poor administrator getting pushed into this fancy system. They paid a lot of money, looks good on their CV, but ultimately they're going to be left having to do side systems, dual systems, and you end up with just an unmitigated mess. But I don't think the reality of what's actually going to happen on the 1st of April or 1st of March, I can't remember that offhand, what's going to happen. I mean, everybody's got a vested account. 10% is going to be switched over into 2 accounts, the retirement account or the savings account, and plus a vested account. The people who make that decision not. And that could all happen within a provident fund. That anybody over 55 with any sense will remain in the vested amount and preserve his money. The flag to allow member access to this meager savings that they've got is a concern, because administratively, I think on that day there are going to be floods of KA claims coming in to say, I want my 2,000 rand, I want my 5,000, whatever the case is, And administratively, I don't know if that's going to happen. Secondly, administrators are going to have to think about activity-based costing, so they can process all these partial withdrawals, because that's effectively what it is. And this will be the first time in our Act that we allow for a partial withdrawal. So I think there's going to be a lot of problems. And ultimately, the systems can't handle it on that day.
Yeah.
It's going to be done in a spreadsheet, or it's going to be done on a side system. And that just, it's going to be a mess. So you'll only find this after the first audit, or if somebody decides to move their fund from an administrator because they haven't managed to do the job correctly to another administrator, and when you go to look to transfer the data, you're then going to find your issues. And then it's too late, because now you've got a data mess, which is a big issue. So look, I mean, we've got vast experience in this, and it was painful in Zimbabwe because it was retroactive. It wasn't something we could plan for in the future. The IPEC just pushed out a directive, and that was it. Everybody had to comply. So it was, who could move fastest was the ones that were benefiting of that. We're lucky. We've had sight of this for over 2 years, for over 3 years. I mean, the deadline date has been pushed out by a year. And I see now everybody's wanting it to be laid even further, except Kasatu, saying, no, we want our members to get their money next year. And somehow I have to agree with it. This has been on the table far too long to be now pushed out. And it's been pushed out because eventually this whole thing is filtered down through organizations, and the actuaries and the legal people that have dealt with all of this with the authorities and said this is a great idea. Whatever the case is, they now pushed it down to the administration entities, and they've said, no, you haven't thought about this. Well, how do we do that? What are we going to do with this? And this is where there's all this pushback, I think, is coming. So if I was a fund or a trustee or a principal officer out there, I'd be making sure now, if the current administrators can actually physically do that administration, and I'd be asking them to process specimen files on that basis to see that the results coming out would actually comply. Not to find out in April, May next year that they're a bit late on the implementation, and then that's the big issue. And my major concern is umbrella funds, because a lot of these large umbrella funds and the big push to push everything into umbrella funds, nobody pays on the 7th of the month and has their schedules in by the 15th of the month. Everybody's at a different status. So the poor guy on the ground floor who is now wanting to get his money, they're not going to be able to process it because contributions haven't come in yet.
Right.
So if this is the end of March, contributions are only in on the 15th of April, 14th of April. Members are going to be paid on the 1st of April. I just think that whole communication around that is going to be quite critical. And I just think there's going to be a lot of people chasing the tails because they really haven't thought about it. And this is all down to data. If you can segregate your data, you can manage your data. If you can't do that now, and you've got limited accounts in your application, and a lot of the large legacy systems that we have in South Africa, and Africa for that matter, all hierarchical in the structure. You'll have a fund, you'll have an employer, multiple employers, you'll have some accounts, you'll have a member account, employer account, you might have an ABC and a transfer. Now you've got to go and split those. Now you've got to go and split a member account into 3 sub-accounts. You're going to take the employer into 3 accounts, ABCs into 3 accounts. I don't think that level of granularity is available. And if you can't do it, it's a fundamental rewrite into the structure of your whole application. So I'm saying good luck to these guys, and it's not going to be easy. But from our side, we can't wait. Actually, this is a fantastic opportunity for us again in the South African market to actually showcase our software, and the fact is we've got a track record in these environments is fantastic.
Yeah,
I think that's about it.
Yeah. If I were to ask you, Gary, I mean, if you were to give me a checklist that one could say to POs and trustees of retirement funds, to help them interrogate the problem, how can the administrator prove to them that they are ready for this? What would be the sort of, couple of bullet points that they can specifically ask them to help them ascertain the validity of the claim that, yes, we can do it?
Well, I mean, the point is, first of all, the first month's contributions coming in are going to have to be split 67, 33, or 100% if the member stays in the investment account. So your system's going to actually then need to be able to take a contribution coming in based on the category of the member's accounts not necessarily a category, but the members' account structure, then split the contributions accordingly,
Yeah.
which then splits the investments accordingly, and then splits the fees accordingly.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's many systems that can actually split fees at account level. An account there, I'm talking about member account, employee account, and even split that again to say on the member account, 30% for that one into the savings, 30%, 60% for the retirement, and where do we take our group life fees from in an inclusive of cost arrangement? So there's just too many variables to give you a definitive answer. But if I was a client, I'd say, look, I want proof that you can split my contribution 60-30 or 100% from that perspective. I want to see an output from that thing. I want to be able to see where my fees are going off at account level. So you're now going to have to start carrying transactions at member level, as opposed to a lot of schemes which have an annual declared type bonus arrangement, and then they just take their fees out of the account and allocate them whenever they can. I think this is now going to become a real-time situation where you'll be able to see the fees at member level on a daily basis. Batch-based systems are going to certainly be challenged on this effect, because most of them have to then be closed off and then run the batch for the month and then reopen again. For those who haven't paid, I just good luck. But from an employer, I'd like to see the schedules. I'd like to see how they're going to allocate it, how they're going to split the fees, how they're going to split it on a benefit statement. They must be able to record that when I get my benefit statement or I go into my online portal, I can see my 3 separate components or my 2 components, whatever applies to me as a member. And I should be able to see that real time through my mobile phone or my portal. And if you can't do that, then I think they should be seriously looking elsewhere, or getting some guarantees from the administrator that if they can't do it, then they shouldn't be charged with administration fees.
Right, fair enough. Yeah, Gary, thank you very much. I really, it was a very interesting, I think, very eye-opening chat. And in this instance, absolutely, the devil seems to be in the detail. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this pans out, and if we are indeed going to be seeing some spreadsheets or subsystems, running on the side to help keep the ship afloat. And that's such dangerous territory, as you said. So no doubt we're going to be speaking about this a lot more, especially in the coming months, I would imagine. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. And yeah, let's see what happens.
Thanks, Chris. And just remember that with Section 13A and penalty interest and the application of penalty interest on 3 separate sub-accounts, it just complicates this matter. It becomes multidimensional, and in the jurisdictions where we work, the penalty interest has to be calculated per sub-account and gets allocated to the member.
Right.
It doesn't go into a fund account. It gets allocated at member level. So it's become very, very specific type of administration, and you can't do that on spreadsheets, unfortunately. It has to be system driven. Spreadsheets don't have any segregation of duty. There's no validations. There's nothing. This has to be systems driven. But yeah, as we know, we will find this out in great detail, unfortunately, early part of next year.
And the sad part
is... Thanks, Chris.
No, thank you, Gary. Yeah, absolutely. And what you quite rightly said, I mean, this is one of those pivotal points in the life of a fund. It's like when you create the fund from scratch, or when you move from one administrator to the next. These are all really critical points in the life of a fund. And this seems to be one of them. And if you get this wrong, you can sit with drama for many, many, many years to come. So, interesting
we
times.
see funds that have been migrating for the last couple of years and they still haven't got it correct with one account.
There you go.
If I was the regulator, I would say that I would not allow any funds to be moved in that window period. I would put a moratorium on any funds changing administrator for at least 2 or 3 months, just to allow them to fix it and get the data converted. It's easy to migrate converted data, but if you're migrating at a time where this change is coming, nobody's going to accept the responsibility of doing it.
100%. Makes a lot of sense. Gary, thanks for sharing your experience with us. And we, as I said earlier, I think we're certainly going to be talking a lot more in the couple of months to come. So thanks for your time. Take care. We'll chat soon.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.